Alright, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honors, and glories due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kwadash. Alright, that means the Heavenly Father, in the name of His only begotten Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit, which is the Rakah, Kwadash. Alright, so that would be Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kwadash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, rule well. Those are the true teachers of Israel today. And you so-called, not you so-called, but you Israelites consist of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Natives, Seminole Indians, and also you Israelite foreigners scattered among the nations. All right. So, I was talking to somebody last night. Let me see if I can get this guy's name. We had a pretty lengthy conversation. Richard Newell, the brother Richard Newell, he told me that he was from Poland. His father was from Poland and Italy. Those were the two majority countries that he did on the DNA test. Now, one thing you have to understand, brother, is that we don't go by DNA test. We don't go by DNA test because, like the scripture says, let me go ahead and get it. Genealogies, ancient person. This is that's not the one. This is 1 Timothy 4, 1 and 14. Neither 1 Timothy 1 and 4, Salakia, forgive me. Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions rather than godly edifying which is in faith, so do. The reason why we don't go into genealogies is because it's a never-ending road of questions, man. You might get DNA test that says, okay, I'm Polish and Italian. Then you wonder, okay, which is it? Am I Polish? Am I Italian? How did the Polish get there? We don't deal with DNA tests at all, man. We judge somebody by the spirit. Normally, your lineage will go through the father. Okay, let me go ahead and get that. Numbers 1 and 18. The lineage of a man, how you determine who he is through the fathers. But because we don't have any records, it's not always easy to find out who your father is or your father's fathers. I think it's Numbers 1. Numbers 1 and 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families, which by what a pedigree is, a pedigree, let's go and search that up, pedigree. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Pedigree's definition: pedigree, the record of a descent of an animal, showing it to be purebred. No, that's not what we're looking for. Pedigree, the recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or a family. So basically, the scriptures are saying that you determine, they declare their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upwards by their posts. So your lineage goes through your father's household, your father and your grandfathers and your great-great-grandfathers and so on and so forth through the father's lineage, not the mother's, because your mom, even though you do get the Y chromosome from her, she's not important when it comes to determining your nationality in front of the Most High. The world looks at somebody as mixed if they have so-called white and black, but according to the Heavenly Father, whoever his father goes back to, that's who he is. If that man, let's say he has a white father and a black mother, if that so-called white man, that may look like an Edomite, if his lineage goes back to an Israelite, no matter how far it is, he's an Israelite according to the Most High. according to the Most High, he's an Israelite, but not according to this world, because they look at skin color as a determined nation of race, which doesn't make sense, you know? That's why in war, what did they always do? They always capture the woman and they put the men to death. Isn't that true? Because they know that a woman is nothing but an incubator. She just gives birth. That's all it is. But she brings your seed, your people, your nation, you know? So now that we got that out of the way, go ahead and go back to the comments. So, we were basically talking and he was asking me uh, what happened to the comments. I can't seem to find the comments now. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. For some reason, I can't find the comments at all. Okay, maybe the comments are gone. I don't know what happened to the comments. But anyways, go back to the home page. So he basically asked me a question about the Dark Ages and who the Japhetic people were. Basically, I told him the Japhetic nations were the Hawaiians, the Samoans, the Malaysians, so on and so forth. Those Pacific Islanders. All right. Now, one question that he asked me that struck me was like he asked me a question about the Dark Ages, and not that he asked me, but I told him that I would do a video on the people in Poland and Italy, because there's a lot of information that needs to be brought out, on the people that were living in those lands after the Roman Empire, even in between, because you got to understand the Dark Ages were when people were ruling, and not just any other ordinary people. It was dark-skinned people. Dark-skinned people were ruling in Europe, all right, during that time, So before I want to start, I want to go ahead and get Daniel chapter 7. I want to start at the main point. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. All right. Now, those 10 horns, let's see if I have it here. Those 10 horns will be the Anglo-Saxons, the Franks, the Alemanni, the Lombards, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Burgundians, the Vandals, the Sueves, and the Hereles. Those you could say Germanic nations that were under rule in the Roman Empire. Every year they had to give their tribute, give able-bodied men to fight in Rome's wars. Those were the 10 horns. Now the seven heads. The seven heads are. Let's see if I can get it. The seven heads are the Greeks, the Spanish, the Germans, the Germanic Major, the Romans, the French, the Germanic Minors, and the British. All right, those were the seven heads, the seven mountains, the seven kings that you always hear about in the scriptures. All right. Now the reason why I brought this out is because when you go into history, the pagan Roman Empire from Augustus all the way down to Domitian were Edomites. You could even include Trajan, because Trajan was an Edomite as well. But the rest you see here, Nerva, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, all the way down were Jakes, And we're going to go ahead and prove it. Also, before I do that, let me go ahead and do this. Roman verse. Let's see if I can find. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. This is what I was looking for. So, as you can see here, this picture was uploaded on Twitter. It's not on the actual website, but this is a clear depiction. You can clearly see who the so-called white Roman emperors were and who the dark-skinned Roman emperors were. Now, this was done by some historians, as you can see here, by some historians in the university, and they used 3D what's it called, 3D facial reconstruction to make the Roman emperor faces. This is what you see here. So from Augustus all the way down to, you could say, Trajan, except Nerva, because Nerva is an Israelite. I believe he's an Israelite. Apostle Har, he spoke about him being a Jake, and when I done the research, I found out that to be true. But Trajan, this guy was an Edomite, so he was basically the last Edomite to rule in Rome. The last so-called white person to rule in Rome. Then here is Hadrian, the start of the Jake rulership. So, without further of a doubt, I'm gonna go ahead and read it on. This is the Julian Claudian dynasty, and I'm gonna make this quick because I have to get through the Roman era. And then from there, I'm gonna jump to the known Dark Ages. Will be like the 9th century, the 8th century, all the way down up until the 14th century. And then you have the Renaissance period, which our power started to go down in the 1500s. And then we fully went down around the 17th century. We were out of power. We only had a few strongholds that we ruled. So this is the Julian Claudian dynasty. This is Augustus. All right, as you can see here, they done a facial reconstruction, and they used his statues to pretty much computerize his images, and this is pretty accurate, don't you think? Augustus, light brown hair, blondish, subflavian. He had clear, bright eyes, bluish gray, gouchy. His complexion was between dark and fair. Suetonius, dark skin. His teeth were wide apart. And then here is Tiberius, all right? Another Edomite. You can see here, that looks exactly like him, We have another one here. This is Caligula, well-known Roman emperor. And these are all Esau's, this is Esau's history, This was during the time he was ruling. You also have Claudius over here as well. Go ahead and take a good picture of that. Take a good look at that. Going down, you have Nero version 1 and Nero version 2. Now, the reason why Nero has some sort of that type of hair, as you can see on the statue, is because his great grandmother was actually black. I don't have the picture of her, but he had a so-called black great grandmother. I believe she's his grandmother or his great grandmother, but somewhere in between. She was probably an Israelite or an Etruscan, Japhetic person. See there. Now those are the part 1. I'm gonna show you part 2. Okay, this is no, that's the same thing. Let me go ahead and get part 2. This is going to be the year of the 4 emperors, the Flavian dynasty, You got Galba, as you can see here, clearly an Edomite. And these are not fully accurate, but, technology is almost as accurate as it seems, but sometimes it can be a little bit off. This is Otto. As you can see here, that looks like Otto to me. They kind of reduced his hair a little bit. This is Vitellius. Looks like a straight up Edomite, you know? He had to be one fat one too. And then you have Vespasian. You see a Vespasian over here. And then you have Titus. Vespasian, what's it called? Titus and Domitian were all famous for the siege of Jerusalem, you know? That was when the Israelites started being scattered all over the world. The Jews that were living in Jerusalem, they basically fled Judea. Some of them went into Africa, okay? And some of them went into Europe and different parts of the world. So that's why when we say that Israelites were ruling in Europe, that's what we mean, because we had Jakes during the time of 70 AD that fled into Europe, to these different parts of Europe, all right, and mingled with the populations there. So that's the Domitian, the brother of Titus, and the son of Vespasian, you know. Now we're going to go ahead and get to when Jake was ruling. So after he had these the 12 Roman Edomites that were ruling, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all right? And then this will be 12. Trajan will be the 12th one. Nerva, it's up for debate whether he's an Edomite or a Jake, but I believe Nerva was a Jake, you know? It's up for a debate though, you know? This is the Nerva Antonine dynasty. You can see here. This is Nerva right here. You may say he looks like an Edomite, but you know, I believe he's a Jake, you know, gray haired. This is Trajan. You could clearly tell that this dude is an Edomite. Now, he was the last Edomite to rule in Rome. And then now you have Hadrian. This is version 1. You know, the skin color was a little bit too light. Now this is version 2. You see? Dark skin, you know? This was the adopted son and heir of Trajan. And Hadrian was he was the first Israelite Roman emperor, but he was not the one that fulfilled prophecy, you know, in Revelation 20, which I'm gonna go ahead and get, where it talks about the angel coming down the bottomless pit, and with him having a chain in his hand, roughly paraphrasing. He wasn't the one that fulfilled the prophecy, you know. This is Revelation 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Okay? And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So during the time of Hadrian, he did not fulfill that prophecy, because Jake got up into rulership, but they weren't putting hell on Edomites. You know, we were basically ruling alongside with Esau, but we were gaining power. You can understand, you know. It wasn't until the time of Septimus Severus that's when Jake started coming up into power. Well, not coming up into power, but that's when Jake started putting their foot on Esau's neck, you know, putting them in slavery. So that's Hadrian right there. This is Antoninus Pius. You can see he's clearly a Jake, but they kind of messed up on the skin tone a little bit. The hair should be a little bit curlier. The beard should be a little bit curlier, you know. I would say he would probably be a light brown skinned man. So this is right here, Lucius Verus, which I don't believe this is what he looked like. This doesn't look anything like him. I'm gonna show you what he looks like. This is Lucius Verus right here. You can clearly see, man. That looks more like him compared to this one right here. That's why I don't really trust whatever is on his page. Because they sometimes messed up. Now, one thing about Lucius Verus is that he put gold flakes on his head. to make himself have blonde hair, which is true, right? But his natural skin color will probably be brown or black, you know. And he had a very curly beard. I mean, this type of hair texture right here would not be for an Edomite. You can clearly see this is not his type of hair. It's too straight, you know. It's not that curly. So that's one thing about this facial reconstruction is very inaccurate. You know, the hair is very off. That doesn't look like Lucius' hair at all. Okay. Yeah, he took pride. He took such pride. He took such pride in his yellow hair. It is said that he used to sift gold dust on his head in order that his hair dust brighten might seem even yellower. Yeah, he was very proud of his blonde hair, Flaventium. Now he could have had blonde hair, but you know, with so many sources that are so conflicting, you don't know which one's true. So he could have had blonde hair. Who knows? But this type of hair texture, nah, he didn't have that type of hair texture at all. With that kind of curly beard and hair, I don't think it will look like an Edomite. It was probably mixed. I would say he was so-called mixed. Now this is Marcus Aurelius, which this is kind of off. It doesn't really look like him. But if you scroll down to version 2, this looks more like Marcus Aurelius. They almost got the hair. The beard is kind of messed up. They should make it a little bit curly. But you can clearly see that this is a Jake right here, Marcus Aurelius. So I'm going to scroll down. Yeah, he had dark curly hair and beard along with his predecessor. So, Lucius Verus could have had blonde hair. Now, this is the guy I was talking about. I was confusing Commodus with Lucius Verus. Commodus actually dyed his hair. You can clearly see his hair was always dyed and made lustrous by the use of gold dust. Hair naturally blonde and curly, and in sunlight as lustrous as if it's sprinkled with gold dust. Okay, or as if reflecting divine splendor. Cheeks covered with tender down, hair, face, and head singed because he feared barber. So he never cut his hair. At times shaved his head and carried a statue of Anubis, Egyptian tutelary deity of the chase. Okay, this is Pertinax. Go ahead and take a look. That's what he looks like. He was a freed man, the son of a slave that was freed. This is Didius Julianus, which he was a Jake. Okay, a so-called Negro and Israelite. This is Septimus Severus. This is the one who fulfilled the prophecy in Revelation 20 that was spoken about. That angel, that messenger. So this is Caraculus, his son. This is Geta. He kind of looks Indian a little bit from the facial reconstruction. This is Macrinus, I believe. Macrinus. You can see he's a dark-skinned man. This is Diadumanian. All right. Elagabalus. All right. Elagabalus. So these are all Jakes, You got Severus Alexander, These are all Jakes, man. So now that we understand, the time when Jake was ruling during the Roman Empire, I'm gonna go ahead and show you a few pictures, and I'm gonna go to real history, and I'm gonna go to Italy. Go to Italy. Let's see what comes up. I don't want to go to ancient pictures of Italy. No, I don't want to do that. Let's do Central Europe. Central Italy. Central. Yeah. Here it is, the Black history in Europe. Now, I'm not going to read everything here because some of the stuff that's written here, uh, it's kind of bugged out. So the guy talks about how so-called black people made it through Europe. They crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, which that's not the only way to get in. They also can come through from the land of the land of Israel all the way up until Turkey. Asia Minor. Okay, that's how a lot of our people actually went to Turkey and different parts of Greece. They went through Asia Minor, or you could take a boat and go straight to Greece because Greece is pretty close from the land of Israel. So he shows bones. He also talks about blacks from Africa had also migrated to Europe by following land routes east of the middle Mediterranean Sea, which is here in Istanbul. This is what I was talking about. You got Egypt here, you got Greece here, Crete, Athens, Aegean Sea, Bulgaria, Romania, Russia. This is how the Japhetic people, went up into Russia. The Magog, the Scythians. They went up through, after the flood. Noah landed in Turkey, okay, after the flood, because that's where you could find the imprint of the boat. He landed somewhere in Turkey, and his sons, they split. Shem went up to Europe. Ham stayed in Africa, and Japheth went up to Europe. Ham went into Africa, and Shem got this whole so-called Middle Eastern part of this land, stretching all the way to Asia. But Japheth got the biggest parts of the earth, Europe, of the known world at that time. See Asia Minor, Anatolia, Turkey, very close to Europe. Now these are the real Japhetic people, which I'm not going to make a video on that, by the way. I just want to get to the main point. Oh yeah, this is a Thracian couple. These are the real people of Tiras, the Thracians. I'm going to skip all of this. Alright, this is the time when we were ruling. This is the Byzantine Empire, which, if you searched up the Byzantine Empire, you will know that it lasted 1,000 years, Let me go ahead and get that Byzantine Empire reign. The Byzantine Empire reigned from approximately 380, 480, all the way to 14th century, which is 1453. So that was a long time of rulership. Okay? And it was so-called dark-skinned people that were ruling. Now, the Roman historian Cornelius Tacitus describes the Germanics thusly, quote, "They appear as a distinct, unmixed race, like none but themselves. Hence, too, the same physical peculiarities throughout so vast a population. All have fierce blue eyes, red hair, huge frames fit for only sudden exertion. They are less able to bear labor's work. Heat and thirst they cannot in themselves in the least endure. To cold and hunger their climate and their soul inure them." So, there were two types of Germanic people. There was actually a dark-skinned Germanic people, and then there was a pale-skinned Germanic people, And if you know about that whole the Swedes were black thing that blew up a couple years back, there is some truth to that, because they will tell you that a huge dark-skinned population came and mixed with a light-skinned population, and that's what you have now, the Japhetic nations. Now, these people over here that the Roman historians seen, I believe those people were Edomites. We don't know how true his source is, but according to his source, he believes that those people were Edomites. So, you know, that's very interesting to think about. Now, the Huns conquered as far west as Germany, which caused many of the native people of Germany, including the Black Celts, to move westward to avoid the Huns. Okay, you can see up here, many of the Celts started moving upwards, into the Western Empire. This is the Byzantium Empire, the Byzantine Empire. See here, Italy, Balkans, Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. This is Emperor Alexios, okay, Komnenos, This is what he looks like. You clearly see that this is a so-called black man, This is his wife right here. This is Emperor Manuel Komnenos and his wife, his second wife, Maria of Antioch. So you can see that this woman right here, which I believe this is like strips of paint, brown paint, but I could be wrong. His wife over here appears to be an Edomite. You can see right here, this is Maria, and this is the Jake right here. This is Manuel Komnenos that you seen earlier in that other icon. You can clearly see that this is a black man and a so-called white woman. So that shows you that during those times, even in the time of Emperor Alexios, that Jake was mixing with the Edomites. And here's another picture, another icon. You got Charles V, okay? Charles V over here. Picture of him. You can see that's clearly so-called black people. Here's another picture of Charlemagne. This is in his castle. As you can see, they whitewashed his hands, but they didn't whitewash the rest. That was unfinished work right there, He was the king of the Franks from 768 and emperor of the Romans from 800 to his death in 814. Charlemagne's empire. Okay. All right, and then I'm gonna go scroll down here. This is the detail of the triptych by Antonio Vivarini. Okay. Today, the Eastern Orthodox Church, being continuous, still depicts the original Christians as they really were, as blacks, though somewhat whitenized. The Western Church, including its dissenting offshoots, Roman Catholic, Anglican, and the Baptist, Congregational, Lutheran, Methodist, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, Quaker, Reformed, apparently unafraid of damnation for heresy, chooses to falsely depict them as albinos. Yeah. Because the western part of Europe fell pretty much quicker than the eastern part. The Holy Prophet Nahum. This is Saint Anna, the mother of Virgin Mary. All right, the youngest daughter of the priest Nathan from Bethlehem, descended from the tribe of Levi. She married Saint Joachim, who was a native of Galilee. Here it is, Saint Kebby and Saint Cyril, Britain, a British icon. Clearly see that these are so-called black people right here, These Franks later controlled all of Central Europe from Germany, between the Holy Roman Empire centered in Germany and the Byzantine Empire, who ruled from Constantinople. These two black ruled empires were able to keep the albinos under control. And we were ruling up here in Scandinavia as well. Now, you had more Edomites up in these parts of the world, up there in Northern Europe, compared to what you have in Central Europe, This is Valerian, because he's a so-called black man, judging by his statue. Valerian the Elder was Roman emperor from 253 to 260. He was taken captive by Persian king Shapur I after the Battle of Edessa. Become the only Roman emperor who was captured as a prisoner of war, resulting in a wide-ranging instability across the empire. So he was basically captured in war, became a servant while being an emperor. This is the Sasanian plate Shapur II hunting. So this could have been heathens, or this could have been Israelites that were ruling in Persia. These were also jigs as well. You got the Moors, Islamist armies of Muhammad, succeeded in conquering Persia. The Arabs were mostly illiterate and were not well suited to run a country, much less as an empire. They preferred to be farmers, so those albinos who had been vassals of the Persians quickly took control of not only the Persian Empire, but also of the intellectual realm of the Arabs' religion of Islam. Okay? The Arab victory over Persia gave the Turks, who were the allies of the Arabs, free reign over Eastern Europe and Anatolia. Okay, in 1453, the Turks succeeded in destroying the Eastern Roman Empire. So this is when Mehmed came in and destroyed the Byzantine Empire. This is what you have now, and those people were Edomites, and the ones that helped what's called Mehmed were the Arabs. Was Ishmael. The victorious Turks created a large empire called the Ottoman Empire, which is what you have at the point of 1600 AD. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip all of this. This is not important. This is what you have now. With Persia controlled by the Albinos and the territories of the Eastern Roman Empire controlled by Albinos, it was just a matter of time before the weight of all those Albinos would be too great for the remaining black empires to stand. In Britain and Germany, the Albinos used a novel new approach to seize power. In order to separate the people and segment the black and white populations, they created new religions to compete with the official state religion of Catholicism. In Britain, they created Anglican religion. In Germany, they created Protestant religions. So you got Albert von Hohenzollern, Duke of Prussia, the 37th Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights. You see, he's a so-called black man right there. Which the Teutonic Knights were taken over by Edomites. You see that they're still praying to a so-called an icon of the Black Madonna, which that's supposed to represent Virgin Mary, the mother of Yahushua, and it's supposed to be baby Yahushua. You see over here the Black Madonna in Montserrat, Spain, Canary Islands. This is Leopold the First. Okay, you can see he has the curly hair. Okay, and the big lips and the big nose. This is Charlotte of Mecklenburg, Strelitz of Germany. So you pretty much get the point. This is Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella, which they were Jakes, by the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a few pictures that I have here. I just want to show you guys something. The guy asked me about Poland, which I have a few pictures I want to show him of the nobility in Poland. If my computer will work. So I can give me a second. So here it is. This is I believe this is King Casimir the Great of Poland. You can see he's clearly a so-called black man. Now, if you don't believe me, we could go ahead and search up who he is. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and close this out. King Casimir the Third, the Great. Now over here, he looks like an Edomite. They got pictures of him looking like a so-called white person, but when you go to statues, where's the image I'm looking for? Yeah, right here. This is King Casimir the Third. This is what he looked like. He had brown skin. He had long curly hair, and he had the crown on his head. And he was the king of Poland, I believe, in the 13th century. So if he was dark skinned, what would his father be? Be dark skinned as well. See, this is another look at him. You can clearly see that he's a dark skinned man. Now I have another one. Let me go ahead and find Duke of Poland Mieszko. Yeah, this right here, you got the real picture of Mieszko, the first of Poland. You can clearly see that this guy is a dark-skinned man. So these are a little bit of the icons of Poland. I could go ahead and get more, but it's going to take a while for me to look for all these icons because I have to go through the dynasties and search them up one by one. But I just want to give you a brief overview of the icons in Poland. It's only a few of them because most of them are whitewashed or destroyed. I'm gonna show you a little bit more. This is Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. You can clearly see that this guy is a Jake. You can see the afro. You can see like the receding hairline, the kind of baldness he has over here. You can see the mustache, and this is his wax statue. He's a fat, dark-skinned man. This is another one right here. I don't know who this is. This is General George Monk. Okay, the Duke of Albemarle, Commander in Chief. This is Empress Maria Theresa, which she was a so-called black woman as well. This is Saint Ladislas of Hungary, because he's a dark-skinned man. This is King James the First. Okay, the famous King James Version Bible that was prescribed by him, King James, which he was a so-called black man. Clearly see. Another picture of him. This is Maria of France. Okay, and Henrietta Maria, the wife of King Charles I. This is Frederick Barbarossa, red beard, Holy Roman Emperor. This is Prince Adolphus Frederick. Okay, the seventh son of British King George III and Charlotte of Mecklenburg. Okay, so you can clearly tell that this guy is a Jake and that his father was a Jake. He was like a light brown skinned man. You can see the woolly hair on him. He is a great grandfather of the current monarch, Elizabeth II. Prince Adolphus. This is Luis Maria Theresa, the woman that we were talking about. She is the Queen of France. Okay, 1664 to 1732. This is Queen Anne, the Queen of Great Britain. She was the daughter of King James II. Okay, Clearly see that this is a mulatto, so-called mixed black woman. You can see the big curly hair. Our people were looking beautiful during that time. This is Louis the First, the Great, King of Hungary and Croatia, and King of Poland from 1370 until his death. You know, Edward II or Edward III, he was a real dark skinned man. You can see like a dark brown. This is Saint Catherine of Siena before the Pope of Avignon, Pope Gregory the 11th. You know, Saint Ladislas. Again, this is William Robert Curthose or Robert II. Okay, he was the eldest son of William the Conqueror. So you know that's pretty good to know. And this is the guy, I believe his name is Ellert Son. Okay, he was a Norwegian and he had an afro. You know, it's Prince Henry. I forgot who that is. The story of Bella II, King Casimir, a statue of him. You can see the curly hair. So you know, those are just icons of Jake when we were ruling. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off. So, you know, during the time of the Dark Ages, we had the so-called white man, the nation of Esau, and rule what's called in slavery. You know, we had them in a low position up until those 1,000 years were fulfilled. Now, the time that when we truly went down was starting at the 14th century, but that wasn't the time that we went down. The time that we went down, that we totally lost power, was around the 16th to the 17th century. And the reason why I say that is because of the 100 Years' War that took place. You know, not only that, but let me go ahead and get the 30 Years' War. Yeah, here we go. This was the reason why we went down. The 30 Years' War killed a lot of Israelites in Europe, you know, and the majority of the people that were fighting these wars were Jakes. Now, during the time of the 15th century, Europe was starting to become a mixed population. You know, you had so-called black and white people coming together and having children. You know, and that started becoming more prevalent. So the people during that time, the Israelites during that time, started becoming lighter and lighter. You know, that's why we say that, you know, among these all different European nations, that there are a lot of Israelites, you know, among them that are in these different countries. So we got the 30 Years' War and the 100 Years' War. So from the time of after the 30 Years' War, I would say 1650 all the way down to the 17th century was when we truly went down. We went out of power, you know. That's when we lost power and Esau started coming up. Okay. Now the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, they started gaining their power around the 17th century. So that's when Esau started climbing up the ranks. We also had different types of Edomite families that had power, but they didn't truly have power over the whole of Europe. You know, it was more of Jake was ruling, but Esau was coming up the chain. You know, that was the time that them started coming up during the time of the 15th century. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump down. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and that 1,000 years is during the time of, like I was saying, it started in the Renaissance and it ended, what's it called, in the 16th, 17th century. That was when the prophecy was fulfilled, because you got the Rothschilds, the Rothschild families. Let me go ahead and look up beginning of the Rothschild. The Rothschild family grew in prominence in Europe beginning in the 18th century when Meyer Amschel Rothschild, which his name was Meyer Amschel Bauer, They started in the 18th century. While the Rothschild family has been traced back to the 15th century, the banking dynasty was started in the late 18th century. Rothschild family, 15th. I want to find out who they are in the 15th century. See, Meyer and Chabal, which is Meyer, Rothschild, they can trace these people. They can trace their family all the way back to the 15th century. I want to figure out who they were during the time of the 15th century. Let me check over here. Uh, yeah, we'll go ahead and get a better picture. As you can see here, you got Nathan, Amschel, Solomon, Carl, and James. They're all spread out in Europe. 1, 2, 3, 4. They were all 5 sons that started spreading their line all over Europe. And this was a time when these Edomites, they started really, really taking over Europe. Was due to money, because money controls all things. Oh, this is like a blurry picture. You can barely see what's going on. So that was a time when that prophecy was fulfilled. And right now, where we're at the time of prophecy. Go ahead and get Babylon. This is where we are. Let me go to Revelation 17, actually. Revelation 17. This is where we're at right now. I'm going to jump down to the main point. Okay. Verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Which the 5 are fallen are the British, the French, Germania Minor, Germania Major, the Romans, and the Greeks. Those were the ones that have fallen. Okay. As you can see here, and one is and the other is not yet to come. The one is are the Romans, and the other is not yet to come. Okay, it's talking about the British Empire. Salakia made a mistake. Let me go back. Let me go ahead and take a look at my notes. Let me see if I have it here. Okay, Salakia. So the 5 are fallen are the Greeks. Okay, the French, the Germans. Okay, the Germania Minor and Germania Major, and the Spanish. Okay, the one is really referring to the Romans, and the one is not yet to come are talking about the British, because the British Empire wasn't there back then. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th and go to perdition. Now that 8th beast, okay, that is referring to is talking about America, because it came out of the 7th, which is Britain. That's why the scripture says, she that bore you, the mother that bore you shall be ashamed, roughly paraphrased, because America came out of Great Britain. This is Jeremiah 15:12. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She shall bear you. She that bear you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nation shall be as a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. So as you can see here, Britain, the nation that gave birth to America, is ashamed. All right. Because of the wickedness that's going on in America. That's why all these European nations, they're going to turn their back on the beast on America, that great whore, because they see that the America is cheating them out of all the deals. America is showing their wickedness on the earth, and it's embarrassing anybody that's affiliated with this nation, you know. And the 10 horns, which thou sawest, are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour within the beast. Now, those 10 kings are the foundational EU nations, the European Union, because of right now you have up to 28 to even 30 European Union nations. But when it first started back in the 1900s, all right, I believe it's 1950 or 1948, or even a little bit further in time than that, like around the 1950s, the 10 horns were the original EU nations, all right? These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, okay? Which is what's happening right now. That's why they're in league with America. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, which is Yahushua. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay? And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and are multitudes and nations and tongues. That's referring to America, because America is a conglomeration of different types of nations living here, you know? America is the biggest melting pot on earth. And the 10 horns which thou sawest, the EU nations, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For Yahweh has put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right? So that's the European nations. They're going to turn on America and burn her with fire, all right? When the Lord puts it in their minds to do it, okay? So, you know, that's pretty much the whole roundup of the whole Dark Ages. Sorry if this wasn't as neat, as organized as you would think. There was a lot of information that I had to go through in order for me to get to this point, you know? So hopefully this was edifying. And until next time, Shalom.